Welcome, everybody. This is Still a Part of Us. This is a place where moms and dads can share the birth stories of their kids that they have lost to stillbirth or who had died in infancy. So we are grateful to have Victoria here today, and we're going to introduce her again in just a minute. But first of all, before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that we're going to be talking about a lot of things that could cause triggers. It's full of triggers, and we're going to be talking about stillbirth and also about pregnancy after loss. So please just be aware that we want you to be healthy and we want you to be safe. So if you can't listen to this, then don't listen to it right now, because we're going to get into some of these topics that can be quite sensitive. So, and if you are enjoying the content that we are producing, and also if you're part of our community, part of this club that nobody really wants to be a part of, hit the subscribe button. I think others will be able to find these stories more readily if you hit subscribe. So we would really appreciate that. So without further ado, we're excited to have Victoria here. She told her birth story of her first daughter, Ophelia Lennox. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to it, I would highly encourage it. It was really good and really heartbreaking. And I'm excited to talk a little bit more about, how she's handled the grief since Ophelia has passed away. So welcome again, Victoria.
Thank you.
As for some background, can you tell us when your daughter Ophelia was born and what happened to her?
Yeah, Ophelia was born January 23rd, 2019. So over 2 years ago.
And she was stillborn at 39 weeks, right?
Yeah, just shy of her due date. Just a few days shy.
Yeah. So we kind of left off at your birth story of that you guys discharged home and you had her cremated, but I want to know how the aftermath looked. How has that process looked for you when you guys got home after having gone the morning before and we're like going to get bagels afterward and everything changed from there? How did that look for you guys?
Yeah, definitely everything changed. So I was discharged the morning of the 24th. There was a doctor that came in who actually was talking to us and shared a story of a friend or perhaps like a family member that had experienced a stillbirth like many years ago. And, she talked about their subsequent children. And she was just like little woman and talked so much. And I remember kind of being annoyed that she was like talking to me so much and like telling me these things. But like at the same time, looking back, I'm like, was she just like an angel? Like, was she even a real doctor there? Like, where did this woman come from? Why was she even there? But she was the one that actually pushed me in the wheelchair out to the car. I just remember like wanting to leave the hospital as soon as I could. I shared in the birth story that this was like not the best hospital in New York City, and the room that I was transferred to after the delivery could very well have been like at one point like a psych ward area. It was like just awful.
Not
and,
good.
No, it was just this tiny little space, and nothing about it was comfortable, or I just wanted to be home.
Get out.
They wheeled me out, and just kind of feel like a zombie leaving without your child. And I think it was my mom that picked me up, and it was raining, gray, and I just remember going home and like taking a shower and getting into bed. And I think I stayed in bed for many days, or just coming out little by little. But really, yeah, just slept a lot. But a lot of family, friends had showed up the day before, either at the hospital or, to take care of our dog or, drop off food or whatever it was. Mentioned my friend from Chicago
Mm-hmm.
flew in. She arrived on the 24th, and my sister drove out. She had just had a baby. She had a baby in October, so she had a newborn. And my husband's family from North Carolina made their way. So a lot of people, there was a lot of people around. And the first night, I think, I remember like having a meal with family, and I feel like everyone was just trying to keep the mood up a little bit, to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
But like while giving us space, and was very like, we're just very respectful that like if I, at any point wanted to go lay down, like I just would go lay down. And my husband and I live in Brooklyn, so we have a very small apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of space. So, family like rented Airbnbs, and I remember getting, I think, an email or a text from the coworker who was filling in for me,
Mm-hmm.
asking if the baby was born yet. And at that point I was like, oh no, I need to like do something. Like, so then I like emailed the HR department and like copied my husband. I was like, this happened, and if you need anything, like talk to him, because like I couldn't, didn't want to be like checking email, and then like sort of silly, but like then feeling like, oh well, I need to post something on social media. Not need to, but I was due any day.
Right.
So like there was an expectation that there would be a baby, or like,
Some sort of
a birth
announcement.
announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought about it, and, wrote something and posted something, and, just to kind of, just sort of to give myself that space where there would be fewer questions, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, my job was basically like, you can take your full maternity leave if that's what you want, or, whatever it is. But like, I didn't have to like make any decisions right away. And I was just able to, take a break.
Yeah.
And yeah, my husband, Steven, he really just like handled most of the logistical things that needed to happen over the next week.
Yeah.
He went to the funeral home, and he went with his sister and my good friend. And my friend later told me that she basically thinks that she sort of like not blacked out, but like kind of blocked out what was happening.
Yes.
Because it was even traumatic for her to be like there, like experiencing it. But yeah, we were just surrounded by friends and family. Steven's parents, they rented an Airbnb and stayed for like 2 weeks. And again, just sort of gave us our space. Like, they would come over for dinner if we wanted them to come over for dinner, or, or not. They just kind of would check in with us each day and, see what we wanted.
Yeah. That's kind of nice, actually, that they were near, but not too close like that. I mean, you guys could call the shots on that. That's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they were like very cautious of, giving us space
Mm-hmm.
and not, not being more draining on us and already being really emotionally drained. Yeah.
Yeah, it is so hard after that period of time. So did you end up taking your full leave from work then? And how were you, like, I guess, how were you doing to make those decisions? Like, if you went back earlier or if you took the entire time?
Yeah. I had 3 months, but I went back about 2 months to maybe 9 weeks in or something.
Mm-hmm.
I went back a little bit earlier than what my full maternity leave would have been.
Yeah.
And I kind of just played it by ear. I definitely needed that first month to not think about it and to heal. I mean, I just, it was full on, labor, delivery, full on everything. And I think I wanted to give my body the time to heal and treat it like actual postpartum.
Yes. You did give birth to
your
baby.
Yeah. I mean, it's, been over 2 years. I don't remember in detail or like when I decided I wanted to go back, but I think it just, it started to feel like, what am I doing? Like I kind of like wanted something else,
right?
Rather than just sitting alone with my thoughts, sort of.
Yeah. A little bit of routine or schedule or something to kind of maybe you have to show up for.
Yeah. It was definitely like a routine that felt like would have been helpful to have.
Yeah.
After some time.
And did Stephen go back to work? I'm sure he probably took a little bit of time off, but probably didn't get as much leave per se,
right,
with his work.
I think he took maybe a week or maybe a little bit more. His company is pretty flexible and was very understanding. But he also wanted, I think he even needed it more to get into something else.
Gotcha. To kind of get him, get him back onto something.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you have done that you feel like has been helpful in your healing or your grieving process? Did you go see a counselor or a therapist or grief support groups or a coach or anything like that as you kind of were trying to heal and trying to figure out what happened?
Yeah. Yes, I did a number of things. I had a good friend kind of do a lot of research for me and sort of give me a lot of resources to start looking for help or support. And another friend that knew someone who had a stillbirth and connected us. And at one point, Steve and I decided to go to a support group, a child loss support group.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big deal. We're going to do this. This is going to be good. And we went, and it was, they were really, really lovely. But it wasn't the right group for us.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just child loss in general.
Mm-hmm.
So we were the only ones with infant loss. So people were talking about someone who had a bike accident when they were 18 and all different ages.
Yes.
Or
okay.
even adult children.
I see.
And it would have been fine. It felt fine until the very end when they asked everyone to go around and share a happy memory or something that the child had done to make them laugh or something along those lines. And it was just well, we don't have any of those memories.
Yeah.
Because she was never alive.
Yeah.
So we were okay, this is a great group, nothing wrong with the group, but it's not the right one for us. So we kept looking. And I'm not even sure how I found this woman, Lori. She's fantastic. A part of a hospital in New York City, Mount Sinai Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
They have really fantastic resources for child and infant loss. And I'm not even sure how I got an appointment with her, but it was sort of just like you could schedule a visit with her. I guess she's sort of in like the social work kind of thing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I just like had like a 30-minute meeting with her and just kind of talked about how I was feeling, and and she kind of just gave me a few pointers, and then said that they have support groups, and so she invited me to a support group. And then she also was like, well, recommended some things. And then I was like, yeah, I would really like to be part of the support group. And so then shortly after we joined this group, and the way they set it up, it's, they only let a certain number of families in at a time. I think they cap it at like 6 families. And they typically meet for, I don't know, I think 3 months or 3 or 6 months, maybe even.
Oh, okay. So like almost a class, like you go through it together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's generally like everyone in our group had, like Ophelia was there's one woman who had a stillbirth like in like November, and then Ophelia, and then the last one was like in March. And I think actually one of the mothers had been like less than a week since they had delivered their baby. So we're all kind of like in the same sort of
very
stages.
Recent. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And we would meet every other week. And this was our group. Like,
yeah.
It was exactly what we needed. It was a really great space for me and for Stephen, because there are other, fathers that were there as well. It was fantastic. And I felt really lucky that we found this group.
Was there anything that you remember that really helped you? Or was it just the sheer camaraderie?
I think, yeah, definitely the camaraderie, like being able to experience it together and just being a safe space to talk about it. I think that Lori, who like facilitated it, is just exceptional. And I think it was also like a little just kismic. Like we, connected with these people. Because actually when it was supposed to end for us, there were 2 families that were like, hey, can we continue just with us? Like normally you're supposed to graduate into this other group that meets less frequently, but it's like people of all different stages of loss and grief. And they let us like just keep meeting, but like a little less frequently. And we still have like WhatsApp group where we're connecting, and I'm actually meeting with some of the moms this coming weekend. So like, it just feels like we got lucky.
Yeah.
With that.
Yes. That is huge. That is so great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, you had that support group, and then, and now you have this, you kind of have a little bit of an intimate support group where you can rely on somebody, even though it's been a couple of years since that loss. Did you guys do any other type of groups or therapy outside of that?
I sort of just tried to find anything I could. I listened to a lot of podcasts, found videos on YouTube, and for me, it was like listening to a story on like a podcast or a birth story was, even though like painful, it helped me I don't know, just sort of kind of get in touch with my own emotion. And you would, usually listen to it if I was driving or taking a walk. I was, by myself, and I could just like feel the feelings that I needed to feel. So that for me was really helpful. I had been taking prenatal yoga beforehand at this like sort of health center,
Mm-hmm.
and they had also like this just one-off um, loss group
Oh,
um, where I actually now still meet with the leader of that. She's now like my therapist.
yeah.
So like I connected with her there and like was like, hey, like, I think I would, I think I need therapy.
Yeah.
I think I need regular counseling.
Yeah.
Um, and I actually have stayed in contact with or some of the other women from this other lost group, just actually like virtually over Instagram, essentially.
Yeah.
One of the other women there, um, she had a son a week after I had my second daughter. And so we've kind of been going through motherhood in the pandemic together, but like
Yeah.
all just over Instagram, like direct messaging.
Yeah.
She lives in Boise, Idaho. So yeah,
Oh,
it just so so weird how I've like connected with these other women.
yeah. No, but
That
it's
and
also kind of cool too. Like if
yeah,
you think about it, you're like, this would be so lonely. And then
yeah,
thankfully
yeah.
there's some benefits to social media, right?
Hmm, hmm. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Um, yeah. So I did therapy. And there was also just this one friend who um, we actually met. She's a traveling or was a traveling nurse at the time, and was took a position in New York City.
Hmm.
And we met when I was pregnant with Ophelia. I think we met over the summer, and they quickly just became friends. But she became a very close friend after the loss of Ophelia, and to this day says like she believes that the reason she like was called to New York City for this position was to be there for me. And she was. I mean, she was the most like I think she had experience with like a friend who had lost a child, and I think she just had this. She's a nurse, and she's
Yeah.
had worked at the time was working with like children with cancer. So like she's just like the most like caring and
Mm,
genuine person, and she was just would know how to like show up and just you know
that's
go out for a margarita or something. Like she just could be that person for me, um, which was really um, yeah, you just need to be like normal with some people sometimes
yeah.
and not talk about, sad things. So,
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly right. Um I think that's cool that she knew how to show up for you and
mhm,
just be a friend and be okay with everything that you've gone through and be there for you. So
yeah.
that's huge for
Mhm,
those friends that are there and stay there.
mhm.
I'm assuming she's probably taken another position at a different location now.
Yeah, she's in Florida now.
Okay. She's all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
um, so I know that you said that Steven has been really wanting to be a dad, and um, how has he taken it? Like as you've watched him, because it sounded like he took on a lot of the kind of logistical responsibilities, and but how has he grieved and mourned?
I think that we both grieved differently, and I would almost say like individually. Like I mean in the beginning, we would just be sad together, and I think as like time went by, like you know, like you're less sad every day, but like you have sad days, and then
Mm-hmm.
um maybe you don't always bring it up to your spouse.
Yeah.
But I think he just carried a lot of it, and but did what he had to do.
Yeah. They do, don't they?
Yeah.
They do. Cause you just shut down. You're just in so much shock and trauma and you just don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So grateful for my husband because of that. He just did it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
So you've actually brought up quite a few things that I really have liked to point out, is that that things that people have done that were exceptional or really made a difference for you after Ophelia passed away. I just think of like your family members that kind of showed up, one kind of checked in with you and just let you call the shots. I think of your friend who was there for you and let you be kind of, like you said, normal, and took you out for a margarita when you needed to. Were there any other things that people did that you wanted to shout out, or things that you felt extremely helpful for somebody that has just lost a baby and may not know what to do with himself? So
yeah, I mean, just the people that, like, that actually just showed up, even though I was like, no, don't come. Like when I was in the hospital, like
yeah,
my friend that drove from upstate, like I'm pretty sure I said, no, I don't want you here. And she came
she
anyway
came
because
anyway.
she knew. And then my friend that like did the research for me and
Yeah,
found groups for me, like multiple options so that I didn't have to like
yeah.
sit on Google and try to find that. Yeah, those like practical things. And
Yeah, I really like your
yeah,
friend that got all those group support things for
yeah,
you. That is really actually pretty huge, because
mhm,
there's a lot of resources out there, and some
yeah,
may not be the best option.
yeah,
So, yeah, practical things sometimes those are
yeah.
the
And
best.
at the time, I was like, I don't think I couldn't even really like sort through them. But then there was like a time that I was like, okay, I'm ready to like
Look,
look at
and
this,
yeah,
or take, start doing something other than sit on the
yeah,
couch.
yes.
Yeah.
And anything that that stood out to you that you felt like was a good thing to say to somebody that had as a bereaved parent?
I don't know. I feel like there's nothing really that um
Maybe it sounds like some of the actions are like the things that spoke the loudest to you.
yeah, for me at least. I don't know that there's really anything that like, I mean, there's certainly things that you can say that are just like not great or just insensitive. Um but I think just like the sincerity of how you say things
Yeah.
really makes a difference.
Yeah, it totally does. Yeah,
Mhm.
because some things may be a little insensitive, but like people just really mean well. I feel like
Yeah.
they just want
Yeah.
to help in some way and say something.
Yeah.
Um, so are there any things that you shouldn't say to a lost parent?
Don't say that you'll get pregnant again and then have twins and just
Oh,
like that'll be like, oh no, you're done with you have twins, so you're done. Like, oh god,
yeah.
no.
No, not so much. And yeah, I've heard you'll get pregnant again, but not with the twins.
Yeah,
That's an
that was just like
extra.
another little like layer to it,
Yeah.
like one and done after this. Like,
Mm,
well,
not the.
also, and it was also like a man telling me, like,
Oh.
obviously you don't know what like carrying twins would feel like.
Yeah, you're like, not your place to no.
No. Mm-mm.
um you did mention earlier that you had your daughter, your second daughter, Willa, and was that something that you guys had thought about when you were planning for her, or didn't plan for her? I'm not totally sure. Was that something you guys planned?
It was, yeah. I think, I mean, you go home empty-handed, And for me, at least, it was like, well, I need to be a mother to a living child. Like, I need that. But I was very aware of, or like sensitive to being ready, or like the right time for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like physically, I should wait a certain amount of time. I felt like mentally, emotionally, I should wait a certain amount of time. And that was actually one thing that I had asked the one leader of the support group when I like initially met with her. I was like, well, what do you recommend? And I don't know if she just tells everybody this, but she was kind of like, oh, well, generally after like 6 months, like some people find that. And for me, like, that's all I needed to hear. I was like, okay, 6 months. That's what I need to do.
I can look for that at least.
Yeah. I was like, in 6 months, I will be ready. And, and then I started therapy, and which I think was, important to like, also like give myself time to like work through that. And, I was prescribed some sort of like anti-anxiety or antidepressant, that I could like take if I needed to. Not something I was like taking daily, but, like once I returned back to work, it was just with the help of my therapist, I was realizing like, having some additional support was necessary, to sort of just regulate a little bit. And so I think we got to like the 6-month marker, and I was like, okay, well, maybe we started trying a little bit earlier, like 5.5 months. Yeah, it was literally just that marker for me. But we wanted to have another child.
Yeah.
Like as soon as we could. But I wanted to make sure that we had the things in place that felt like we could do it and not feel like it would be more harmful.
Yeah. That you guys were in a good place physically, mentally, emotionally, to get pregnant again. And, and I'm curious how that pregnancy was. Were you anxious the entire time?
Yeah, you could say that. So yeah, I was prescribed the medication, and then was told that like, it's totally safe to use during pregnancy, but I felt very nervous about it. So I was like, I'm not gonna use it. But I did continue seeing my therapist. And I, decided not to go back to the birthing center. Even though I guess technically they would have allowed me to. So I was like with a different provider, and I was seeing a high risk doctor as well. So I had done some testing, before getting pregnant or trying to get pregnant again, just to like rule out if there was anything,
So like
any other things,
like genetic testing specifically.
Genetic testing, and like they wanted to like make sure that there was nothing wrong with like my cervix, so that the placenta wouldn't implant properly or something like that.
Right. Okay.
They did some additional testing.
Okay.
All of which were fine.
Okay.
So
nothing of concern per se.
Nothing of concern. Yeah. But essentially I just like, I had a lot more support, medical support this time around.
Right.
And like, even, we were very much aware this time, and like, I went in for my first appointment, like on a week where they like normally wouldn't even confirm, but like still let me go in and get the test and all that stuff.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And it was just going in a lot more frequently.
Yeah.
Throughout the visit, or throughout the pregnancy.
And I was going to say, this was, you got pregnant probably, and you can kind of clarify, but probably before the pandemic started and shut everything down, right?
Yeah, I got pregnant in September of 2019.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Yes. Yeah, so September 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when the pandemic hit and shut everything down in New York, I'm sure that was a little worrisome as well. And because Willa was born
in May.
Okay, so a couple of months into the pandemic when it was pretty gnarly in New York.
Yeah. So everything shut down in March, and I guess it was like almost into my third trimester at that point. And so it was already like kind of just a worrisome pregnancy to begin with, and then
added on top of that,
added on top of it. Yeah. So then at that point, like, all my visits I had to go by myself, or like then they stopped visits altogether, and I was just doing tele visits, and I had to like get a blood pressure cuff. And stuff like that. And then I started to do like non-stress tests and other things, and I would have to go in for those types of visits. But again, without Stephen.
Did that make you nervous? That would make me so nervous. I actually
go to the hospital, or
to go without Stephen, actually, like to not have my husband there. I think the name non-stress test is like horrible. It's like the worst name ever because it is so stressful. Because you're just like sitting there like listening to the heartbeat and like with another person in the room, and like it's just, I don't know, I would hear like this like regular like changes in her heart rate, and I was like, wait, is that right? Like why am I here? I don't want to hear this because I don't know. I'm trying to interpret it, and it was very stressful. Like not good.
No. And during this time, they, for about a week that hospitals weren't allowing anybody in the hospital, in the delivery room. So like it was moms were delivering by themselves completely. And my coworker was also pregnant, and she was due in April. So she missed that by like a week, I think. So she thankfully was able to have her husband with her. But so there was like this period of time that we were like, oh my gosh, do we need to like try to find a different hospital or, like someplace like not in New York City, but then like pretty much then it was just all other hospitals were doing the same thing. So, by the time Willow was born, the hospitals were like a little bit more regulated. But it was then shortly after all of the George Floyd riots started. Yeah. And like basically New York City was like on fire. Yeah. That weekend that she was born. There was just major unrest in the city. Like at that point, it's like when the protests and everything were just exploding. The night we went to the hospital, they were starting to close down streets and like threatening to close down bridges. So it was,
She has had an eventful life already, hasn't she?
Yeah. Basically none of my pregnancy and none of my deliveries have been under normal
completely
circumstances.
Not at all.
Yeah.
When you were pregnant with your second daughter, were you having so we have had our we've had a son after our loss as well. And I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, I'm trying really hard to like make sure that I'm not in my mind like trying to replace my son that I lost. Mm-hmm. Did you ever have feelings like that? I don't know if that makes any sense or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I guess like, yeah, then having another daughter
Yes. Yeah.
feels like, yeah, I, it is hard not to like think that way sometimes. And I think, even like when we found out that we were having another girl, like I was like somewhat relieved, because yeah, like you get so attached to the idea of
Yes.
this baby,
Yeah.
you know, and you are imagining a life with this, you know, little boy or little girl, and like, and then you're not allowed to have that, and so like you want to like complete that somehow. And I feel like it's an inevitable feeling or thought to have. And I think, for us, you know, when with Ophelia, we set up our apartment a certain way. We had kind of planned to like just sort of incorporate all of the baby stuff into
Throughout.
Yeah. Like we didn't dedicate a room. I mean, we didn't dedicate a room like a nursery.
Right.
We were just gonna have a bassinet, and like we were gonna have the changing table in our like kitchen.
Yeah.
And so after Ophelia didn't come home, you know, I think my mom and some family had taken a lot of her stuff, the big stuff out. And then, you know, in preparing for Willa, like, you know, we were going to use some of that stuff. Like we didn't get rid of it. But with Willa, like we set up a nursery, and I know that other lost moms like can't do that. But like for me, that was very different than how I handled my previous pregnancy and in preparing. Like this, I don't know. I was using some of the same stuff, but I wanted to like make it for Willa.
Yeah.
Not for. Yeah. So I feel like, yeah, you know, even like Willa's worn some of Ophelia's clothes, and she has like some of her stuffed animals and, you know, things that were like made for Ophelia. So I feel like to come around to your question, like now that she's here, it's obvious that I'm not replacing Ophelia, but like I'm able to differentiate that and also connect it in a way, like how, like, you know, she's like a younger sibling, and sometimes you pass along things from an older sibling to a younger sibling.
I love that so much. I love that so much. It's like, yeah, it's a hand-me-down in a sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really, I like that a lot. Hopefully that helps somebody too, because that actually clicked with me just now. So, and I am wondering, this has been just a great conversation, and I really appreciate your time today. I'm wondering if you've had any like aha moments or about grief or loss, or just anything that has kind of been a turning point for you as you've lost and then maybe even had another baby in these last 2 years.
I think it's uncomfortable. And I, you know, I think obviously like coming on here and sharing, I feel like I am comfortable talking about it. And I think it's really important to share, and to make other people uncomfortable in a way, to normalize it, because this is unfortunately part of life. And I think for me, like part of my healing has been talking about it or like writing about it. Even just like, you know, a post on Instagram. Like it's not like I have like a huge following of people or But for me, just it's a little bit therapeutic to like put in words
Yeah.
what I'm feeling. I don't know. I think it's important to like do what you need to do. Like, I think it's really important to find the support that you need for however long you need it. And I think, it's important to honor your kids in whatever way is right. Like Ophelia's first birthday, we like actually had like a little party, which um like a pseudo party. I don't know. We had a gathering with people, and you know, and then the second year we didn't, and I didn't want to really do anything, and I didn't really want to say anything, but that's just like what felt right the
Right.
second year.
Yeah.
So I just think like honoring moments and you know whatever you're feeling because it changes.
It does. And I feel like sometimes when you put so much pressure on, like, oh, I've got to do a certain something,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't ever turn out that way, and then you just get
No.
disappointed and sad. And so
Yeah.
I think honoring how you're feeling even on a day-to-day basis is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I actually have a little bit of a follow-up question, because I was thinking about it. I'm always curious because we have a lot of people that reach out to us and at certain times in their loss journey. And you're a little, I mean, I wouldn't say that you're super far out from your loss,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a little bit later than some people. Is there
Mm-hmm.
any particular reason why you were like, I feel like I want to talk about Ophelia now? Was it just the right time for you?
Yeah, I think it just was. Willa is like almost one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe the distance a little bit is feeling. I'm feeling the distance from um. Did I say Ophelia is almost one or Willa's almost one?
Yeah, you did say Will is almost one. So
Okay.
yes, you were right. Yes.
Yeah, I'm feeling the distance from Ophelia's birth. And actually, one of the support groups I was telling you about, there was another woman, and she was also like 2 or more years removed, and she was coming up on a birthday, her son's birthday. And I think she was just like, I just came to this group because like she was starting to like feel something again. And I just think it's like I don't want to forget the details, and I feel like having this to remember and like just like have it here.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, I told Willa today, like I'm gonna go talk about your big sister, and one day you can listen to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just feeling like wanting it to be known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is a perfect place to finish up there. Thank you so much, Victoria. It was great talking to you, and I'm glad that you got to tell Ophelia's story, and also to just kind of walk us through some of the stuff that you've done, and that's been helpful for you, because I hope that helps somebody kind of realize, oh, okay, these are some steps that I can take to be in the right spot for myself. So thank you so much. This was excellent.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the work you guys are doing.
Oh, we're happy to be here.